attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're just freaked out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody, this is Kiru's Show here. Now, as you can tell by the intro, this is a bit different, or a bit new. YouTube has tried copyrighting me for my intro of Adam Jensen's The Mystic, even though it is not more than 10 seconds long. And I'm fairly certain that it is a bot who copyright striked me, since they removed 3 of the 4 strikes right now. I do need to go check after this recording. And the person who made my intro, he is Shota Todoroki, well, on YouTube. Well, you guys did see his Discord name in the end of my intro. Now, he made that for me for free. He sort of asked if he could make me one, and offered to do so. I said yes, and well, he could have charged me money. He could have asked for something in return, and he did not. And this is my way to repay him. People have requested me doing this what if for a very long time. In fact, someone asked me directly after I did the what if Deku was Bakugo's brother. Now, this is for you guys, and my way of repaying you, Todoroki. So, here we go. Now, let us start with the Todoroki family, or endeavor. His plan to make a weapon, or a perfect hero, hasn't been going very well, and him and Rei trying to decide to have another kid. Now, this time, however, whenever they do find out that Rei is pregnant, she is not carrying one child. In fact, they find out that she is going to be having twins. Oh yay. Now, this actually does surprise Endeavor, as he is trying to think. This is a bit odd. Him trying to think about what the quirks will be. Simply thinking that one kid might have a ice quirk, while the other one might have a fire quirk. Trying to think for a second that if he can make these two work together with perfect coordination, then they can be exactly what he wants. They can be his soldiers, or his weapon to kill All Might. Now, with that being said, eventually Rei does give birth to these two children, and they do see them. Todoroki sporting a half-white, half-red hairstyle, while Midoriya, instead of having green or black hair, he actually does have white hair, and red tips. Now, this is actually a bit more different, and Endeavor does want to get them tested to see if they have quirks right away, to which they do not show signs of it. And he is a bit annoyed, since he is going to have to wait before he can find out exactly what their abilities are. Now, he does try and look into some odd things, thinking for a minute. If he can at least guess what one of their quirks will be, then he can get them started early on training. Get them thrown into it immediately, as soon as they are able to walk. Now, whenever he is looking into these quirks, he doesn't really find anything that would be perfect. He finds just standardized ice quirks, fire quirks, and, well, a lot of odd things in between those two. Now, Growing up, Midoriya and Todoroki, they do go to a different school. Or, well, Todoroki's high school. Or, not high school, kindergarten. I'm not sure exactly where he went. Now, Midoriya does actually still get the name Izuku, since Rei wants to believe that her child will be able to be someone special. She sort of liked the name, and it had a very good ring to it. Now, Midoriya and Todoroki are actually in class today. They are going to be going home and then training today. And, well, soon they are going to be going to a quirk doctor to see if they manifested their quirks. Now, today on the playground, there is a bit of an incident. Midoriya, he is on the swing set, and whenever he is playing, he is swinging up as high as he can, going higher and higher and higher, until he pushes off, and he gets sent flying throughout the air. As soon as that does happen, he throws his hands out in front of him, and then a loud pop can be heard. As Midoriya, he sent a large gust of wind directly into the ground whenever he threw out his hands. And he was seemingly just floating there for a second, before both of his hands smashed into the ground. And he only hurt his wrist a little bit. Everyone running over and seeing that happen, trying to think for a second about what his quirk is. Many of them believe that he has a flying quirk, and finding that odd since his dad is Endeavor. He would have a fire-based one, right? Well, now, that incident does actually get the teacher's attentions, since they believe Zuko is awakening his quirk, or has already awakened it. Now, with that being said, him and Todoroki do go to the quirk doctor, and they do have test run, as Rei calls Endeavor. And well, yikes. This is a day she has been dreading for a bit of time, as Endeavor does arrive and ask the doctor exactly what his son's quirks are. The doctor is dumbfounded, however. This is a very unique scenario, and it's quite peculiar. As the doctor sits down Mr. Todoroki and explains to him that one of his sons has a half and half quirk of him and his mother's abilities. That being exactly what Endeavor wanted to hear. He has his weapon. Thinking for a second. He has spent years trying to do this, trying to perfect the perfect combination between him and his wife's abilities. As he simply asks what his other son's ability is, and if it's the exact same. To which the doctor goes on stating, no. His son does have a half and half quirk also. This being a bit surprising to hear. If it's not like his fire or her ice, then what is it? As he simply tells young Izuku to come into the room and demonstrate it. Midoriya is standing there a bit shy, and with his head down. He feels like he did something wrong. His quirk isn't like his parents at all. It's different. He wanted to have a fire or an ice quirk, something just like his mother or his father. However, the doctor tells Midoriya to hold out his hand and do just like they did in the test. As Midoriya simply throws out his hand, and a large gust of wind is sent flying directly at Endeavor. Him, still in a chair, does have the flames on his face be put out. And he does look a bit more surprised. That was a wind quirk, wasn't it? You are correct in your observations, Mr. Endeavor. However, the other quirk is a bit more peculiar too, as he simply asks the young boy to demonstrate it. As Midoriya simply, at least, gets into a bit of a stance. And he brings his left foot up and stomps it onto the ground. As directly in front of him, a piece of, well, rock comes up from the ground, a piece of cement. And, well, it's just floating there for a second. Endeavor's still a bit confused, trying to figure out exactly what this means. As the doctor goes on saying, it seems like your son can control any rock-like material. Now, for those of you confused as to how I'm doing this, think about Avatar. Todoroki is fire and ice. Deku is wind and earth. It makes perfect sense to me, and if someone has already done it, then I am probably going to scrap the series. Because I'm going to be a bit mad. Anyways, now. With that being said, Endeavor doesn't really seem to be too mad at Izuku. Simply saying that his son's quirk does seem to be fairly useful. As he does try and think about it for 1 minute. Both of his sons have extraordinary abilities. Izuku's, however, is odd. Todoroki's is perfect. As he takes both of them home and begins to try and train them. However, he does try and look into similar abilities like this. Quirks that are, well, related together. Exactly how his son may have gotten this ability. Now, he does find a bit of research on it. However, it is not completely concrete. It's simply saying that the first twin, his ability or his quirk may be different from the other ones. The second twin may have a similar quirk. And it is possible that the quirk is completely different in every entirety. Now, Todoroki, or Endeavor, does understand this a little bit better now. The quirk is based on an element, and his other son has the other element. So, that is interesting to him. However, Todoroki, he does test his flames and test his ice. Very little, however, is known. Since his flames and his ice are only on each side of his body, he can't throw flames out of his left side. But he can't throw ice out of his right either. Well, Midoriya, he doesn't have that restriction. He can throw wind out of both of his hands and manipulate the earth under his feet with both. So Endeavor, he actually does see his other son as a bit more useful in that respect, as he simply begins training them and trying to get their abilities in shape and trying to understand them. As he himself begins to research the psychology of these quirks and what effects the wind quirk and the earth quirk might have on his son, along with trying to study twins to try and figure this out, since he does want an actual explanation. Now, with that being said, Midoriya and Todoroki do begin their training at an early age. And Endeavor does try and instruct Midoriya on how to use his quirk. However, it is a learning phase for Endeavor too. While for Todoroki, he simply instructs him how to use his fire side, trying to get him to use it more and more and more, trying to be physically tougher on him, just like in canon. However, young Izuku is there also, and he does try and tell his dad that he should not be doing that. Endeavor simply not listening. Now, a couple months will pass, and Rei is sitting down with Todoroki and Izuku and watching TV. As it is the day they see All Might, watching as he flies through the air and is doing hero work. Izuku simply watching that happen, and being completely in shock, thinking that the number one hero has a quirk just like his, and finding it to be quite amazing, as he starts to model his techniques after All Might. Whenever he called a punch a smash one day, however, Endeavor was a bit angry. However, he did see the way his son was using his ability. He was trying to use it just like All Might. Since he actually did do a bit of a whirlwind punch, as you can say, where as soon as he throws out his hand, he lets out a straight beam of air. As it fly through the backyard and actually punched into a tree. Whenever it punched into the tree, it actually did blow away quite a bit of the leaves on it. And Endeavor saw that, simply thinking for 1 second. That quirk is very offensive. However, is there a way to make it defensive? Or even use his other son's Earth quirk, trying to instruct Midoriya on how to use it. Now, Midoriya does begin, simply by smashing his feet into the ground and beginning by manipulating the earth underneath his feet, breaking it up and sending it flying. Now, Midoriya sends all this pieces of rock flying into the wall, and sends one flying directly into a tree, as there is basically a loud smash. And Rei and Todoroki do run out to see what is going on, as they see Midoriya simply messing around with his quirk, and firing off a whole lot of rocks into a wall. Rei being a bit annoyed and telling him that Izuku should not be training, to which Endeavor simply says that they are trying to learn more about his quirk. It is fascinating, and it's actually getting my attention. His ability is, well, it's different, and it might be a counter to Todoroki's. Him simply trying to whisper that. Now, Midoriya, he is actually a bit nervous, asking his dad if he did good, to which Todoroki simply just says yes, he did. He did very well, and they are going to be training again tomorrow. Now, later that night, you do have Rei and Endeavor. The two are having a bit of an argument, and they are going back and forth. Usually she's very reserved about her judgment. However, she's trying to stand up for her children, and telling Endeavor that Todoroki, Shoto, he is scared, and he doesn't feel like he could use his quirk, and that the only reason why Izuku is using his quirk is because he doesn't focus on him too much. He doesn't try and put him through the same training or the same hell he puts Shoto through, saying that he's even once said he doesn't want to use his fire quirk. He won't rely on that side, telling Endeavor that if he starts doing this, then eventually he will do the same thing to their other son. So he has to lighten up. Otherwise, she is going to be leaving, and she will take both of them with her. Now, Endeavor, hearing about this, is a bit more surprised. Usually she stays out of the situations. This newfound confidence, however, is a bit welcoming to her, not to him. Him simply trying to fight her on that. He says that training them like this will be necessary for the future, and that their lives are not going to be easy. Trying to argue that since he is a hero, they have targets painted on their back. However, she doesn't believe him, simply explaining to him what needs to happen, what needs to change. Now, with that being said, the next day, Midoriya and Todoroki, or, well, Izuku and Shoto, they are training. And Endeavor, he's actually calmed down a bit. You can clearly see that there's a look of anger on his face, but he is at least trying to push these two. Ray explained to him that if he pushes them to a breaking point, then he will not get results. Now, Ray tried to drive home the fact that Todoroki and Izuku, they are going to be natural prodigies with their quirks. Izuku is learning about his more and more every day. And Todoroki, he will learn the rest of what Endeavor has to teach, along with what she can possibly tell him. If he gets them to push each other, they are going to be doing his own job for him. Now, Endeavor, he actually, surprisingly, buys into that. Thinking for 1 minute, she might be correct. If he pushes them, then they will resent him. And, well, Todoroki will not use that quirk. So he decides to change his tactic. To which Ray should have known he would do. If it's simply that they will get stronger pushing each other instead of him trying to push them, then he is willing to bite his tongue and try and keep that fiery attitude at bay. This is a rough start, but it is at least somewhere. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And, well, yes, this is going to be a bit of an odd series. But I hope to make it my own unique thing. And again, if someone has done a opposite thing where I'm doing with Deku has the air and the earth manipulation, can anyone leave that in the comments? Because I don't want to copy them. I want to make sure that someone else has not done it before. But hopefully this is my original thing. Alright, let's go.